Beginning, catastrophe in the void. Space has a way of humbling you. No matter how skilled, how prepared, or how lucky you think you are, the universe reminds you that life is fragile. I'm Elias Thorne, a human pilot for the Interstellar Freighter Guild, and I've flown more cargo than most in the sector, navigating asteroid belts, pirate-infested routes, and collapsing trade stations. But nothing prepared me for the day my ship, the Starwood Voyager, was destroyed in a routine supply run. It started as a minor navigational error. The freighter was too close to a decaying jump gate, its gravitic fields destabilizing. An explosion rocked the vessel. Alarms blared. Sparks flew. I sprinted toward the escape pods, heart pounding as the hull twisted around me like molten metal. I reached my pod just as another figure shoved past me. It was a woman, a stranger. She didn't hesitate, didn't apologize, simply snapped the hatch closed in my face. My scream echoed through the corridor as the pod shot into space, leaving me behind. I watched, helpless, as she piloted my seat away. She disappeared into the void, leaving me to drift among debris and fire. My vision blurred, the vacuum of space looming larger than my fear. Somehow, by pure luck, or perhaps by instinct, I managed to latch onto a broken supply container that had ejected from the ship. I floated for hours, unsure if I'd live or die. Somehow, I survived. Hours later, I was rescued by a passing human patrol vessel, battered, dehydrated, and filled with rage. That woman, whoever she was, had taken my escape pod, the one thing that could have saved me, and she didn't even glance back. I promised myself then that I would never forget her. Years of paths diverging. The years that followed were difficult. I rebuilt my career slowly, haunted by that moment in the void. Every ship I piloted, every star I passed, reminded me of her, of the audacity of someone who would take survival at the expense of another. I learned her name only later, Captain Celera, a rogue operative from the Arinder Consortium, known for her cunning and ambition. She had stolen my pod intentionally, as I discovered years later from fragmented intelligence reports. Celera had always been audacious, manipulating opportunities in ways that left others trailing in her wake. That escape pod wasn't just a seat, it was her way of testing me, a game I hadn't realized I was part of. And yet, I never sought vengeance. Not at first. My anger had cooled into curiosity. Who was she? Why had she done it? And what had become of her? Life continued. I became a freighter captain respected for my skill and integrity. I encountered pirates, alien races, and political intrigues. I never forgot the woman who had left me to die. And then years later, fate intervened. The encounter. Worlds collide. I had been contracted to deliver medical supplies to Cyrala Station, a neutral hub orbiting a gas giant in the Shard Expanse. As my ship approached the docking bay, I caught sight of a familiar figure, tall, poised, with eyes that could pierce through steel. It was her, Celera. She hadn't aged much, but there was a hardness now to her presence, a reputation that preceded her. She was no longer a rogue operator. She was a key strategist for a faction embroiled in political unrest on the Outer Rim. And she saw me the moment I stepped off the airlock. Her expression was unreadable. Not surprise, not fear, not recognition. Simply a measured calm that made my chest tighten. "You," I said, voice hoarse but controlled. "Elias Thorne," she replied, her tone even, almost courteous. I wondered if we would meet again. "You stole my escape pod," I said, the words a mixture of accusation and disbelief. Her lips curved into a faint, unapologetic smile. "I saved both our lives, in a way. You survived, didn't you?" I wanted to yell, to accuse, to demand answers. Instead, I found myself studying her. The same audacity, the same calculated grace, the same fire that had pushed me into the void years ago. Yes, I replied. I survived. But you left me to die. Do you have any idea what that did to me? She regarded me silently for a long moment. I know. And I made my choice. The universe isn't kind. Survival often demands sacrifice. Her words were infuriating, but strangely honest. The unexpected mission. Solara's faction was under threat. A rival organization sought to destabilize the outer colonies, and intelligence suggested that Cyrala Station would be the target of a covert strike. To my astonishment, she requested my assistance. I need someone who knows the terrain, the patrol routes, and the human tactics they might expect, she explained. I need you, Elias. I hesitated. The woman who had abandoned me was now asking me to trust her. Years of anger, caution, and hesitation surged within me. I don't know if I can, I said honestly. You can, she said, her gaze unwavering. And you will, because if we fail, many more will die. And you know what that feels like. I swallowed, memories of the void rushing back. I couldn't ignore the chance to make a difference and perhaps understand her after all these years. I agreed, fighting side by side. The mission tested us both. Saboteurs, patrols, and political intrigue forced us to coordinate like we were a single unit. Every strategy, every maneuver required trust. And slowly, trust began to grow, not immediately, not without hesitation, but undeniably. Solara was relentless, brilliant, and fearless. I realized that taking my pod years ago wasn't recklessness. It was audacity, a calculated decision that mirrored her style of survival. She had tested me then, pushed me to the limits of fear and endurance, and now, she tested me again, but with stakes far higher than a single pod. At one critical point, we were cornered in a maintenance bay, surrounded by armed drones. Solara looked at me, calm, poised. Cover me, she whispered. We fought together, anticipating each other's moves, our instincts intertwined from the long years of distance and memory. When the last drone fell, we stood side by side, breathing heavily, and I realized something profound. Despite the years, despite the anger, despite the distance, we functioned as a team, almost instinctively. The truth revealed. After the threat was neutralized, we found ourselves alone on the observation deck of Cyrala Station. The gas giant below swirled in turbulent storms, lightning arcing across its atmosphere. You wanted to kill me, I said, voice low but controlled. Or, at least, you left me to die. Solara shook her head. No, she said, eyes softening. I left you to survive. I calculated the odds. I knew you had a chance. And I took the pod because it was the only way to ensure our survival. That day, I needed to know you could endure, that you were extraordinary. I couldn't process it immediately. Years of anger, confusion, and pain battled with the revelation. She hadn't betrayed me out of malice. She had acted with purpose, for reasons I could scarcely comprehend. You did this for me? I asked, incredulous. Her smile was faint, almost shy, but there. Yes. I needed to know if you were someone who could survive everything. And you did. You exceeded every expectation. I stared at her, the words hanging between us, heavy and transformative. Ending, rekindled connection. The days that followed changed everything. Solara and I worked closely, coordinating human and alien defenses, sharing strategy and knowledge. The years of distance, anger, and survival melted into a complicated respect and admiration. One evening, as the station's lights dimmed and the stars of the shard expanse stretched infinitely, she whispered beside me, You are the only human I trusted to be here after all this time. And now, I cannot imagine doing this without you. I realized then that the past, the escape pod, the anger, the years of separation had all led to this. The woman who once abandoned me had become someone I relied on, someone I respected, and perhaps someone I cared for more than I had dared admit. I'm not leaving, I said, placing my hand over hers. Not now, not ever. If we face the universe together, we face it as equals. Her bioluminescent glow pulsed softly. Then we face it together, she whispered. And as the stars swirled around Cyrala Station, I understood that some connections transcend betrayal, time, and the void of space. We had been strangers, enemies, and adversaries. But now, we were something else. Partners, allies, and perhaps, in time, something more. The woman who took my escape pod years ago had returned, not to abandon me, but to forge a new path together. And I would follow her anywhere, through the void, through danger, through the years yet to come. In the end, survival was not enough. Trust, understanding, and courage were what truly carried us across the galaxy. And for the first time since that fateful day in the void, I felt home.